Hello, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, 11:05 p.m. Let's get to the latest on Hurricane Matthew. Top winds 130 miles per hour still, moving off to the northwest at 13. The new forecast track keeps the core, the center of the hurricane, or the eye, I should say, offshore the entire time over the next 5 days. Believe it or not, after all of this, it does not appear that Matthew will make landfall. Of course, any wobble off to the left here of the track or the west would mean a landfall, and that looks like it would have the most potential of happening right here near Cape Canaveral, believe it or not. And I'm located right about there. Let me draw some yellow in New Smyrna Beach. So maybe I'll be the closest to it, the center of just about anybody down here covering it. I know that there's some folks in national media up here in Daytona, but I'm right down here in New Smyrna Beach. So Titusville, yeah, they may be the closest, largest city to this hurricane, aside from Jacksonville up here. It's not too far off the coast of Jacksonville either. What this also means is more storm surge, perhaps, for this area up here. We'll have to wait and see when the new inundation graphic comes out in about an hour or so. And then it moves up towards the North Carolina coast, South Carolina coast, offshore enough that the effects will be overall minimal compared to what it could have been. You know, we saw some times where this was coming up and looking like it could cut right across eastern North Carolina. Well, that sure didn't happen. And in fact, it's supposed to bend back south and southwest again as a tropical storm. We'll watch this. I wouldn't put too much, loss of sleep on it, although as if the Bahamas want to have to deal with that again. But this is 5 days away. We will worry about that if we have to. All right, so this is the radar out of the National Weather Service, and I guess this is Melbourne. And there's that little small hurricane within the bigger hurricane. That's how I think of it anyway. And so you have this, dry area, this moat, if you will, and it's just a phenomenon that's rarely seen. It does happen where you get these concentric eye walls. A lot is not known about why this happens, and sometimes this little blob of energy in here rotates in and around the rest of the outer maxima, kind of like a top wobbling around inside of a hula hoop, if you can picture that. Kind of weird, but nature's odd sometimes, that's for sure. So listen, these winds coming in here out of the north and northeast, still, south of Fort Pierce towards West Palm Beach, got to be blowing pretty strong, probably 30, 40, 50 miles an hour in some cases. And then your stronger winds, tropical storm force to hurricane force, still more than likely out over the ocean. Hard to tell from radar and getting deep into it, looking at the different reflectivity pixels to see what the wind speeds actually are. I mean, you can just generally bet that your hurricane force winds are going to be offshore still quite a bit as this moves off to the northeast. So, it's not like this is not going to be any kind of a problem, but it's looking a little bit better at least, so that's good. Looking at the satellite animation of it, it's hard to tell. It waxes and wanes, but right here towards the end, a little bit of a hole in the cloud cover there, meaning that the convection has waned a little bit. The cloud tops warming, and those are lower cloud tops in the atmosphere. You can see the eye right there, very easy to discern. And, it's wobbling on off, going to be pretty close to Cape Canaveral over the next several hours, and then up into the area just east of Jacksonville sometime. Let's go back to the map and look at the time frames. So dark tomorrow night, this thing is still going to be offshore. So you can imagine all of the beach erosion and the high wave action, the power outages. This is going to be one giant nuisance instead of, hopefully, a giant devastating landfall. So problematic, but not quite as bad as it looked earlier on the latest forecast information. The wider shot, hadn't talked about Nicole hardly any. This is a Category 2, kind of just sitting here. We'll have to watch and see if this turns around and maybe threatens Bermuda in the next few days. Hard to say. The pattern is just bizarre. You've got this big ridge that has built out here. And in fact, you can see the shape of the ridge, and it's just sort of trapped these systems as the troughs and the upper level energy in the mid-latitudes goes by to the north. At least there's nothing else coming to speak of. Lots of strong winds blowing through this region, which you can clearly see. in the open tropical Atlantic, so we don't have to worry about anything else anytime soon. So that's good news. I want to show you something real quick. If you go to weather.gov and type in your zip code, there's mine for Wilmington, North Carolina as an example. You go to that landing page and it gives you everything you need to know for trying to understand what the hurricane is going to do in your area. All right, so it would be under the hazardous weather conditions, and these areas in red, your hazardous weather outlook, flash flood watch, tropical storm warning, hurricane local statement. For example, you could click on this, and it gives you information written by the people that live in your community that work at the local National Weather Service office. It tells you about the impacts, the wind, any potential storm surge, and it's more specific to your local area. So do check that out on the National Weather Service homepage. I am in New Smyrna Beach still. Going to try to get a little bit of sleep before the worst of the weather comes in. A reminder that I do have a couple of live cameras set up here. You can view those at hurricanetrack.com. They are linked on the homepage. They are also available in our app, Hurricane Impact. I might as well bring up that graphic one more time. I've talked about it enough. I don't want to keep, dwelling on it, but I'll bring it up again here. Of course, YouTube subscriptions, always wonderful for people to follow along. And on Twitter, been posting quite a few things this evening. And then our app, Hurricane Impact, and it actually has the weather station set up over on the Intracoastal Waterway, over the causeway there, the bridge, the Causeway Bridge. So that's been showing some really good wind data. If you've got the app, check out the weather data section for that one station over there. And we'll see how high the wind gets. You never know. Maybe the eye will go right over it. It doesn't look as likely now. I'll stay on top of this. Going to try to get some sleep like I mentioned, and then see what happens with this tomorrow. I may be on the road a bit headed north. We'll just have to wait and see. This is going to be a long process, unfortunately, hanging out along the southeastern coast of the United States for the next several days. Hunker down, get used to it. Matthew's here to stay, it looks like. But at least it doesn't look quite as bad as it did just 12 hours ago. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. I'll have more continuing coverage for you tomorrow.